Om Sahana Vavatu Sahano Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu ma vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Shruti Smriti Purananam Alayam Karunalayam Namami Bhagavadpadam Shankaram Lokashankaram Shankaram Shankaracharyam Keshavam Badarayanam Sutra Bhashya Krutau Vande Bhagavantau Punah Punah. Ishvaro Gururatmeti Murti Bheda Vibhagine Vyomavad Vyapta Dehaya Dakshinamurtaye Namaha. So we are here to review the 18th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, assuming that all of you have been attending the Gita classes going on here, that all of you are familiar with Bhagavad Gita, and therefore the 18th chapter, which summarizes the teaching of Gita, would be meaningful. Well, even if you don't have an exposure, I will try to cover it. The 18th chapter starts with a question on the part of Arjuna, who wants to know what is sannyasa, what is tyaga, what is renunciation. See, this renunciation of action is the ongoing theme in the Bhagavad Gita. Those of you who listen to Bhagavad Gita know that the teaching began when Arjuna declared in the beginning itself, Nayotse, O Lord, I will not fight this battle. You know the context of Bhagavad Gita, that it is in the form of dialogue between Lord Krishna and Arjuna. Arjuna is the warrior, commander-in-chief of the Pandava army. This dialogue took place in the midst of a battlefield, something very unique. Imagine teaching of this profundity, this seriousness. Normally takes place in a solitary place, a bank of a river, in an ashram, in a cave, where there is freedom from all external disturbances, where even the very atmosphere, such as the bank of a holy river, the atmosphere also is holy, and that is usually the environment in which the teaching of this profoundness is imparted. Because you need to get away from the conflicts of life. Your mind should be free from all the stresses and strains of the day-to-day life. And therefore, traditionally, this teaching, which is the teaching about the nature of the reality, nature of the truth, nature of the self. And that is subtler than the subtlest. And therefore, the mind also is required to enjoy that subtlety and focus. Therefore, traditionally, this teaching would take place in an environment which provided that disposition of mind both to the teacher as well as to the disciple. But here we have a revolution on the part of Lord Krishna. This teaching of the Vedanta or Upanishads is normally important aranya. Aranya means in a forest. But Lord Krishna brings the teaching to Rana, meaning to battlefield. From aranya to Rana. Symbolizing that life is like that battlefield. Battlefield is characterized by conflict. That human mind is more often than not pervaded by all conflicts, challenges. That life involves challenges. A battlefield is perhaps the most challenging environment. Life also involves many challenges, many conflicts in terms of making choices. And therefore, this battlefield of Kurukshetra is a very appropriate setting for the teaching of the BhagvadGita, where Lord Krishna is the teacher and Arjuna the warrior is the disciple. Very interestingly, the normal custom is the teacher sits in an elevated place and disciple traditionally sits at the feet of the teacher, the lower place. So it is called Upanishad. Ni means, below, sitting below. Symbolizing that the knowledge flows from a higher level to a lower level, from the teacher who has the knowledge to the disciple who wants the knowledge. Even that is also reversed here. Lord Krishna is the driver, he is a charioteer. Arjuna is the master of the chariot. In fact, both of them were bosom friends. When Lord Krishna was a senior friend, he was the most well-known, the greatest person of the time, even known as God. But then he is true to the friendship. Who are called friends? Friend in Sanskrit is Sakha. Sakha means friend. Samana Khyati, both of them enjoy an equal recognition. So friends are equal. So Lord Krishna always treated Arjuna as equal. And In fact, Arjuna is not only friend, he is a devotee of Lord Krishna also. And these devotees take all kinds of liberties. In love, you take liberties. Your little grandchild can tell you, the grandfather, come on, Dada, become my horse. He rides on the back of his grandfather. That's the kind of liberty one takes in love. Here also, Arjuna was a great devotee of Lord Krishna. He requested Lord Krishna, will you please become my charioteer? Because Lord Krishna was well known as an excellent chariot. Among other things, there are many things, he was also an excellent charioteer. And remember that the function of a charioteer is very important in the battlefield as to how he maneuvers his chariot. How, when the weapons are all fired at the warrior, by proper manipulation of chariot, you can protect the master. And right in the beginning of the battle, surveying both the armies, finding that there are near and dear ones, kith and kin in both the armies, that as a result of this battle, all these near and dear ones would die. And the thought of that filled the mind of Arjuna with great sadness and grief. Arjuna found himself grieving. He found himself sad. Understand that you do not become sad. We don't become sad. Sadness comes to us. That's an important thing. We don't get angry. Anger gets us. Suppose I invite you. Please get angry. Please get angry. You can perhaps make gestures of being an angry person, but in fact, you cannot deliberately become angry. Because anger gets us. It takes hold of us. It controls us. Similarly, grief or sadness, nobody wants to become sad. Nobody wants to become angry. Anger gets hold of us. Sadness gets hold of us. And Arjuna is overcome by sadness, grief. And when grief or sadness takes hold of us, we almost become helpless, cannot function. Arjuna also found that he could not function in the battlefield. He reported to the Lord, I cannot even stand, my bow is slipping from my hand. And he collapsed in the middle of the chariot. This was the condition of Arjuna. In that condition, Arjuna says, "Oh Lord, I do not find any purpose in fighting this battle. I do not find what good can come out of this fighting this battle. Therefore, I will not fight." In technical terms, you can say that Arjuna is saying, in a way, to the Lord, I want to renounce this act of fighting. Because as long as you are enjoying that position of a commander-in-chief, you cannot give up fighting. For Arjuna not to fight, officially he should become a renunciate. A renunciate is the one who is permitted to give up all his duties and responsibilities. We'll talk about that. So Arjuna declared that I will not fight this battle. He said so because it was too sad to fight. The sadness and the grief simply drained away all his energy, his enthusiasm, his motivation. Not only that, but it initiated a very negative chain of thinking in mind of Arjuna. That what was dharma or right thing to do, he thought that it was wrong thing to do. In that state, what is right appears as wrong, what is wrong appears as right. In this 18th chapter itself, Lord Krishna says that whenever intellect is overtaken by tamas, by darkness, then what is adharma, what is unrighteous appears as dharma. Dharma or righteous appears as adharma. That's what happened to Arjuna. So Arjuna wants to renounce. It is very convenient to renounce so that you don't have to face the challenge. In fact, Arjuna will escape this challenge. In India, we have a term called dropout. Dropout. You see, when we have this high school examination, it's a very stressful thing in India because there's only one test at the end of the year. And upon the result of the test depends upon your entire career depends upon how well you do in that test. As the test is approaching, the pressure is building up and building up and building up. And this boy comes to his father and says, "Father, I've decided to take a drop, meaning that I will not appear for the test." That's called dropping out. As you know, so what do we drop out? This giving up of the duty was the context of the BhagvadGita. Fighting the battle was the duty of Arjuna. Because Arjuna belongs to this class or caste called Kshatriya, the warrior caste. And the Kshatriya, the warriors are those who cannot put up with injustice. It is their duty to protect justice, to protect dharma, to protect righteousness, to protect people. This is their duty. And thus it is Arjuna's duty to protect dharma. Arjuna, the Pandavas represent dharma, the righteousness. The opponents, Kauravas, represents adharma, unrighteousness. So really this is a battle between dharma and adharma, righteousness and unrighteousness. And therefore, it is duty of Arjuna the Kshatriya to protect dharma. That is his duty, that's the right thing to do. But because of his sadness, his mind is completely clouded and he thinks that that's the wrong thing to do. And so, this is the context of the BhagvadGita. Of giving up the karma, renouncing the duties. What Arjuna wanted to do was quite wrong. And therefore, one of the important teachings of BhagvadGita is the place of performing one's duty in the spiritual growth of a person. Lord Krishna teaches how performance of a duty is a very essential element in your spiritual growth. So Bhagavad Gita is a teaching for what we call an aspirant. In Vedanta, we use the term mumukshu. Mumukshu means one who is desirous of moksha, one who is desirous of liberation, one who is desirous of freedom. Now please tell me, who does not desire freedom? I don't think there can be anybody here who wants bondage. Nobody wants bondage. Nobody wants freedom. So therefore, every human being really is a desirer of moksha or freedom. What does Vedanta teach? Where is that freedom? Can somebody tell me? Where is that freedom? I am desire of freedom. What is freedom? As we understand freedom, we know freedom as the freedom to do what we like to do. We interpret freedom as license to do what we want to do. But that's not really freedom. You can say freedom is the freedom to do what is right to do. Not freedom to do what I like to do. We'll explain that. Freedom to do what is right to do. What is right to do is that you should be honest. What is right to do? You should be truthful. What is right to do? You must be compassionate. What is right to do? You must be a charitable person. Thus, when we perform an action with these values that would be the right, then that's so difficult. Therefore, we interpret action, freedom as what I like to do. If I get angry, I act out of anger. I'm jealous, act out of jealousy. I'm greedy, act out of greed. I'm revengeful, act out of revenge. We think that that is freedom, but really that is not freedom. Can you say that acting out of anger is freedom? Acting out of jealousy, would you call it freedom? No? Why not? Why not? I'm angry at you. You hurt me, I'll hurt you back. Is that not freedom? That is not freedom. Why is not freedom? Because freedom is when I perform an action with free will. You see, human beings, the great privilege that a human being has is the privilege of free will. What is free will? Performing a deliberate action, where I can deliberate and decide what is the right thing to do, and thus an action performed by free will can be called an action out of freedom. But when I act out of anger, is my free will really at play? Out of anger, jealousy, hatred, cruelty, at that time the free will is relegated to background. There is a pressure inside. Anger pressurizes me, compels me to do things. These impulses as anger, greed, jealousy, all of this in fact pressurize me to do things. And pressurize me to do things that are violent action, the wrong things to do. So really, freedom is the freedom from all these negative impulses. First level of freedom. Only when my mind is free from anger, free from jealousy, free from greed, free from these negative impulses, that is when my free will can come into play, otherwise it cannot come into play. The privilege that human being has is a free will. Well, the human being has been given this free will. Is it a good gift or not? It's a great gift. The freedom to do. That is what? The freedom to grow. The free will enables us to grow. Creatures, other human beings have no free will. They all act out of their impulse. They're all like programmed beings. We are the ones who enjoy a certain amount of freedom. And that freedom is given to us to make the choices. We have the freedom to make a choice in every situation. Whether to do something or not to do. When you decide to do, how to do. With what attitude to do. All this freedom is given to us. If it is well utilized, that becomes a means of our growth. Both spiritual growth and material growth. That's why human being has made all these strides in all fields. That's the result of free will. So therefore Lord Krishna wants to teach Arjuna. Arjuna, freedom is not in dropping out. Freedom is in doing what is right. Freedom is to respond to a situation which is appropriate to you. So this is all discussed throughout the BhagvadGita. And 18th chapter, again Arjuna asks this question, what is sannyasa? What is renunciation? What is tyaga? What is renunciation? And Lord Krishna's reply also is very interesting. I think most of you know what renunciation is. And I'm sitting in front of you, a renunciate. So what do the renunciates do? What did I go through? What kind of a ceremony did I go through to become a renunciate? I went through a ritual wherein it was declared that from now on I have no responsibility. How would you like that? I have no duty. I have no responsibility. Would you like it or not? I think everybody will like this kind of sannyasa, isn't it? I'm a freebie. Not only that, but this renunciate also has the permission to go and beg his food. Only this person can do. Begging is not permitted, but this person is a official beggar. A renunciate like this can go to the community, present himself before a home and say, Bhavati Bhikshan Dehi. Oh mother, please give me bhiksha, please give me alms. How would you like that? No responsibilities, no duties. But understand, that is merely the outer form. The renunciation of this type is permitted to you to give you a certain amount of leisure. When we are in the household life, there are many demands and expectations from us. And therefore, the mind is all the time thinking of what to do next, which guest is coming, where to go to work, which report I have to write after coming, which shopping to be done. And all the time there is something or other to be done. And therefore, the mind is preoccupied by the need to fulfill variety of demands and expectations that are there. They are there. That is life. Which is a beautiful thing, because that is the kind of life that is required for self-growth. What is self-growth? Our Puja Swamiji calls it emotional maturity. Emotional maturity. Self-growth. In Vedanta, we call it purification of mind. If you remember, some time ago I asked a question. We are all seeking freedom. Where is that freedom? Nobody replied to me. Where is that freedom? Is it in wealth? Is it in power? Is it in name, fame, recognition? Where do you think that freedom is?
Freedom from desires. Freedom from desire.
Freedom from desire. Where is that?
It's in your attitude.
Right? In fact, freedom is our own self. It is the nature of the self. Self is called Atma. Freedom is the nature of Atma, nature of the self, nature of yourself and myself. And that is the reason why freedom is so dear to us. Why do we love freedom? Because it is our nature. Why do we love happiness? Because that is our nature. Everything always loves its nature. Everything is comfortable with its own nature. Fire is comfortable being hot. Ice is comfortable being cold. Water also is comfortable being cold, because that is its nature. If you heat the water, water becomes hot, which is not its nature. Therefore, water struggles to give up that heat. When all the heat is given up, water gets back to its nature of coldness, then coolness, then it is comfortable. So we are comfortable when we are free. We are comfortable when we are happy. We are not comfortable when we are bound. We are dependent. We are helpless. We are controlled. We are dominated. We are not happy. We can't accept being dominated, being controlled. We want to be free. Except that you will understand what that freedom is. Freedom is not an external situation. Freedom is not the description of an external situation. It is not that I am free because I am at my home, or I am at place of work, or I am at a beach. At a given place, at a given time, in a given condition, the freedom cannot be described as a place or a time or a condition. Think about it yourself. When you go home, no, Swamiji, 4 o'clock in the morning is freedom. I feel free, so whenever I go to beach, there is no rule like that. There is no rule that a given place always makes you feel freedom, or a given time, or a given person, or a given situation. There is no rule. It happens now and then, but not consistently. Is there a place where you can consistently go and feel free? No. Or a time, or a person, or a situation? No. So what is freedom? Freedom is a state of mind. Freedom is not an external situation. Unfortunately, human being thinks that freedom is in external situation. If I am a millionaire, then I am free. If you have a house of this description, I am free. If you have this kind of a job, I am free, etc., etc. And therefore he strives to achieve those things, thinking that thereby he or she will become free. But really, freedom is a state of mind. You can be free even in prison. Our Swami used to tell us a very funny incident in India. This was sometime in 1967 or 68 or something like that. There was a movement for cow protection, banning cow slaughter. Some group had started this movement. And they took a big procession in New Delhi to demonstrate their strength. And the government banned this kind of protection. So people who participated in that process, many of them were arrested. And you know what? These people, all these kind of sadhus in Haridwar, in Himalayas, there are hundreds and hundreds of this kind of renunciates. So these people were invited to Delhi to participate in the demonstration against cow slaughter, And they were arrested. After 5 days they were released. They all went back to Haridwar, to Himalayas. And after some time, again they were called. Again there was a demonstration to take place. So again they were called. So at that time, my Guruji, Swami Vidatmanand, was living in Rishikesh. So some of these sadhus came to Swamiji and said, "Hey, Swami, join us for the demonstration." He says, "Why?" He says, "Swamiji, last time we went to Delhi and took part in the demonstration, we were arrested. We were in prison for 5 days." He was very happy. He said, "What makes you happy?" He says, "Swamiji, when we are here, we have to go out for begging for food. That food came to us." So they were ready to go away. Meaning that even prison also need not make you feel bound, understand? If you enjoy a given state of mind. And of course, there are many cases. I forget the name of this person, very famous person, who wrote also a very nice, very famous book. He was, during the World War II, he was in one of the concentration camps, I think, and a lot of torture he went through.
Viktor Frankl.
Viktor Frankl, I think so. He describes how he experienced even freedom in that situation. Because freedom is a state of mind, understand this. Therefore, and we want freedom, understand. So BhagvadGita teaches how to get that freedom that you want. The way you are trying to achieve that freedom is not the way. There is nothing wrong against wealth or name and fame, understand that. Nothing wrong. You're most welcome to have it. Because you need it also. For living our life, we require money, we require some recognition, we require some status, we accept it. You require that. For fulfilling your responsibilities, duties, etc., we require. But not for freedom. They can't give you freedom. That's the idea here. If you want freedom, freedom is a state of mind. What state of mind? A mind that is free from these impulses of passion, anger, greed, jealousy, lust. Whenever any of these passions takes hold of me, I become helpless. When anger takes hold of me, I become helpless. I helplessly say things, I helplessly do things, understand? When anger, jealousy, greed, cruelty takes hold of me, I become helpless. That time, I am not free. So what is freedom? Freedom is when my mind is free from these impulses of passion, anger, greed, jealousy. That is the first level of freedom. Which is what BhagvadGita teaches, how to get that freedom. When you have that freedom, you go to second level of freedom. Then you have the freedom to renounce your duties and responsibilities. What happens is, when your mind becomes free from this passion, something happens inside, some transformation takes place. Your value structure changes. Your priorities change. Now what is important also changes. In Vedanta will say that your mind becomes sattvic mind, purification of mind. The rajas and tamas, the raga and dvesha, attachment and aversion, passion and anger, when they go from your mind, mind becomes a contemplative mind, becomes a tranquil mind, becomes a cheerful mind. An internal transformation takes place. And you find that your priorities have changed. You find that. You find that now there is a desire for knowledge. When the mind attains a certain level of purity, there arises in us a love for knowledge. Now the mind gets concerned about the basic fundamental realities of life. So far my mind was busy in thinking, how can I go for the next project, next business, next promotion, etc. This is what my mind is thinking right now. When the mind becomes free from these impulses, it becomes what we call pure, sattvic. It becomes contemplative, tranquil. It enjoys tranquility, it enjoys peace, and enjoys contemplating. Then its love changes. Formerly it loved to enjoy the things in the world, now it starts loving knowledge. This happens. You discover in yourself a love for God, love for knowledge, love for scriptures, love for contemplative saintly people. Your taste all of a sudden changes. Not all of a sudden, progressively changes. So formerly where there was a desire for seeking more and more pleasure, now there happens to be the desire of seeking knowledge. It happens, you don't do it, it happens. When that happens, then you know that you have got the first degree of freedom. It's called self-growth. First level of self-growth. And what you do should be compatible to what you want. If you want money, then you should do what is appropriate for getting money. If you want to eat, then you should do what is appropriate eating. That's only proper. When you want knowledge now, then you should do what is appropriate for seeking knowledge. Is not so? What do you do? In those days, what did you do if you wanted knowledge? You had to go to the teacher. These days, teachers come to us and there were things that are different. But those days, when in the Christian monastery, everywhere, you had to go to where the learned people were, where the wise people were. And those teachers, the wise people, the learned, always lived in solitude, far away from the the community. Maybe in forest, maybe in mountains, maybe on the bank of a river. There may be a monastery, there may be an ashram. So that's where you go for pursuit of knowledge. So formally those pursuit of activity. The second phase of life is pursuit of knowledge. And therefore, you should have a lifestyle which is compatible to the pursuit of knowledge. How do you pursue knowledge? You sit at the feet of the teacher and learn from him. In what form is the learning? You listen to the teacher. The teacher teaches you the scriptures. Now you have a contemplative mind, an inquiring mind, and therefore you enjoy that process of gaining the knowledge. You listen to the teacher, reflect upon what you listen, contemplate upon that, meditate upon that, assimilate that, make it your own. Second level of growth. And for pursuing that, you have a lifestyle that is compatible. That's where this lifestyle comes. Meaning that now you are free from all your duties and responsibilities and all the demands and expectations. You go and live with the teacher and have a contemplative life. First stage is the life of activity. Second stage is the life of contemplation. So Bhagavad Gita teaches these two stages of one's spiritual progress. The spiritual pursuit is pursuit of freedom, pursuit of happiness, pursuit of truth, pursuit of God if you want to call it. And Bhagavad Gita teaches that in two stages. First is life of activity. It's called Karma Yoga. Karma Yoga is performing karma or duties with certain attitudes. Second is Jnana Yoga, pursuit of knowledge. Life of engagement and life of contemplation. And this culminates into discovering freedom as your own self. So this is the teaching of Bhagavad Gita. In this manner, Bhagavad Gita proceeds to teach. So tonight we have run out of our time, past our time. But we will continue tomorrow morning. And we have selected some verses to get an idea of what this overall teaching is. We hope that by review of these verses, we'll get a review of the teaching of the Bhagavad. That's what Dr. Sane wanted. He says, now they all studied Bhagavad Gita. 18 chapters done or you're doing? Done. Recently done. So now let us give to our students an overview of 18th chapter so they can get the overview of 18, the whole Gita. But anyway, whether you studied or not doesn't matter. We will be discussing the verses as many as we can do. I do not know that we can do everything. We will go and do as much as we can. We'll continue tomorrow morning. Om Purnamadav Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.
Swamiji, would you mind taking a few questions, about 10-15 minutes?
By all means, I'll be happy.
Yeah?
You want to do it now?
Sure, every session I thought we'll have some.
Yeah, I'll be very happy if you have questions. You have patience? See, I have nothing to do, no responsibility and no duties. You have, so yeah, I'll be very happy.
Yes.
Swamiji, if if you have to go through the first stage to reach the second stage, is it possible to practice the second stage in the first stage itself, meaning in this lifetime?
Okay, so we talked about the two stages. Generally, roughly two stages. Rough means what? First stage is generally a stage involving performance of right actions and duties with right attitudes. And second is the stage of pursuing knowledge or contemplation. He is concerned that if I go to the first stage, my life will be over. When will I go to the second stage? No, it's not so. No, life will not be over. Stage doesn't mean one life. What it means is that, for example, if I want to go to university, I must pass my high school diploma. I can't go to university without that. So for every kind of knowledge, we require a preparation, prerequisites. Want to go to master's program, I must have a bachelor's degree. PhD, I must have. So similarly, this knowledge also requires a prerequisite in terms of the disposition of mind. That for learning, you should have a learning mind. For working, you should have a working mind. For learning, you should have a learning mind or a contemplative mind. Therefore, the first stage is, it emphasizes the right values and attitudes, by practice of which we acquire that contemplative mind or learning mind, as we'll see tomorrow. It doesn't mean that it takes second lifetime. No, in one lifetime you want to do all this. There is no strict partition also, that when you are doing karma yoga, that you cannot study that. In those days it was there. Because those days you had to go to the teacher, and there was no way you could do that unless you give up this and go there. But this is not the case today. Now we can do everything together, as you are doing. Right now you are pursuing both the stages together, meaning you are pursuing the path of activity as well as path of knowledge. But this study and learning becomes more and more helpful to us, more prepared we are. More contemplative and tranquil our mind is, more impact the teaching has on us. More we benefit from that. Everybody benefits. Everybody has that mind in one degree or the other. More you have, more we benefit. That's the idea. Yes, sir.
Is it reasonable to say that karma yoga is renunciation of the fruits of the actions, whereas renunciation of the action itself is the end of karma yoga?
Yes, a very good statement. That karma yoga, we'll talk about it. Karma yoga means performing action with a certain attitude. It also involves a certain kind of renunciation, we'll talk about it. Renunciation of the attachment to the fruits of the action, yes. And which culminates into the renunciation of action, which culminates further into renunciation of the actor. So first stage, renunciation of fruits of action. Second stage, renunciation of action. Third stage, renunciation of the actor,
Perceive that.
the agent of action. So karma phala tyaga, kartrutva, the doership. Renunciation of the doership. That's the final thing.